how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, I'm good. Would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us where you work and what you do?
Sure. My name is Brian Donnelly. I work for Publix Supermarkets. I'm the offset wide format department manager.
And what does that mean exactly?
We take files from our pre-press department and print them digitally on a large format printer, rigid and roll-to-roll. We also have several offset sheet-fed and envelope presses that we print on.
Now, you didn't start out doing that. When you came to Keiser, you were working at Publix, right?
Yes, I was working for their pre-press department as their digital asset management systems tech. Digital asset management systems tech, yeah. Publix has a digital library of every digital asset that Publix owns, whether that's from our founders' baby pictures to the latest ad that's going to break in 6 weeks to the stores. So I did that, then I became a pre-press technician, which I took marketing and creatives files, prepped them to be press ready, whether that was for an outside printer or in-house for our own printing services department. I did that for 2 years, and then I became the pre-press department manager, and I did that for 8 years. So I managed a 15-person pre-press department within Publix.
And do you like it?
I love it. I absolutely love it.
And so, if you were already working in the graphic design kind of field, why did you decide to come to Keiser?
I knew that if I ever wanted to further my career, that I needed to get a degree. And Keiser was a good opportunity for me since I was already working full-time. They offered one course at a time instead of having to take 3 or 4 courses to fill a semester. I got to do one course at a time and get my degree knocked out that way.
Oh, that's awesome. So that worked perfectly for you working full-time.
Yes.
And so were you immediately promoted after you graduated?
No, I was promoted before I graduated,
Wow.
luckily. Work ethic is a very large part in a very large company. When you work for a company the size of Publix, you really need to make sure you have a good work ethic.
And what other types of things is Publix philosophy-wise? What do they find important in an employee?
In an employee, work ethic, honesty is a huge thing for Publix. We love to promote from within, so you may come in ground level, may not be the best job in the world, but you will work your way up. I worked in the deli for 6 months before I got on at printing services, and that was probably the hardest 6 months of my life.
Yeah. But were you aiming to move up, or
yes.
Were you just
so
wanting
I took.
to get in?
I wanted to get in at originally I wanted to get in to work for creative services. And then I started working at Publix and at printing services and in pre-press, and I realized that just because I have a design degree doesn't mean I have to design. I love working in other people's files. I love finding their mistakes and fixing them to where when they get their finished product, it is what they wanted and what they expected.
And how often do you find mistakes?
Every file, multiple times.
What kind of mistakes? Like, what's the most common mistake?
as a printer, the worst thing you can do or one of the worst things you can do is you get somebody's file and they have it in RGB format. Just because RGB looks good on your screen doesn't mean it's going to print well in CMYK, and that's a very large thing. When you do convert and it changes their color, you have to know about color theory and color spaces and profiling and everything that goes along with it. When you make a font and you make type and you make it 400% black, if any printer prints 400% black, they have no idea what they're doing. They will go in, they will change your file, and they will change it to 100% black. Most offset presses, none in Publix, will print a 400% color space.
So what is the best black for CMYK
printer?
printing?
100% black.
No.
For a printer.
No yellow, no
nothing.
Zero everything else.
If you want a rich black, we do a 100% black, 30% cyan magenta yellow.
Okay. And how often do you need to do rich black?
When we have large coverages, but if it is a font or any form of type, thin outlining, we do 100% black.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That makes sense. So, going back to Keiser, what do you have memories of being something that you carried on throughout your career that actually helped you in your career?
Building relationships. That is probably one of the biggest things I took from Keiser. And I know it's not a lesson learned, but it is definitely a lesson learned in life. I have built lifelong friendships, included, from Keiser. I have friends that maybe not have graduated from Keiser, but went, that live in California, who I still talk to on a regular basis. I have friends that graduated before me from Keiser, who own their own print shops, who I will call in a pinch and go, hey, I need this printed and I need it today. And he will drop whatever he is doing to make sure that gets done for me. So I would say the biggest thing I took from this is building relationships and how important that is.
That's awesome. Does anybody have any questions for Brian?
Of course.
Brian, you went to another college before you came to Keiser.
Yes. I went to Valencia for about 6 months. I was living in Lake Wales at the time, traveling to Orlando, working at the store, realizing that probably wasn't going to work very long. Taking 4 courses at a time and still trying to work, it was rather difficult.
Now, most of us know and shop at Publix. We're very familiar with the store and the product. But to the average person who's not in this industry, they don't realize how large creative services and print are.
No.
How big,
And that they're separate entities.
They're very separate.
They're very separate entities, yes.
Other side of town.
I'm not exactly sure how many designers we have anymore, but I think it's upwards to 50 designers. We have other designers that we outsource work to, freelance designers that come in every so often. Printing services is roughly 220 associates. We work 24/6. We're off on Sundays, and that's it. And I say we're off on Sundays. I don't think we've been closed on a Sunday in probably 3 months. So it's a very large business.
So what all do you print?
The first question we always get asked is, do we print the circular? No, we do not print the newspaper ad. Second question is, do you print those big pictures that hang in the aisles? No, we do not print those big pictures in the aisles. Honestly, the biggest thing we print, and it may seem so minuscule, we print the shelf tags. We print the shelf tags every single week. We have 4 digital presses, and they are the 4 largest producing presses of digital data in the country. We do over, I think last week we did 4.7 million shelf tags for the chain. And we have
that's for all Publixes everywhere?
Yes, it's for all Publixes. We have a 24.5-hour window to turn that around from when we get files.
And are you in charge of making sure that this one goes to West Palm Beach and this one goes to Georgia and this
I
one
personally
goes...
am not, but one of my counterparts is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. But with it, we have extremely smart programmers that work in printing services as well, that programmed shelf tags. So Publix has store-specific pricing. So every store potentially could have a different price on a can of Coke, depending on how much it costs the truck to get it to the store, depending on your demographic, everything. Well, our programmers took that, and so we have 1,150 stores. So if you have one person hanging shelf tags, and they have their shelf tag, and they're looking for their Coca-Cola and looking down the shelf, it's a lot of time. What our programmers did is they took every single store layout and they programmed it to where it's in planogram order. So the associate literally has to take their box of shelf tags, they start on the left-hand column, they work their way down, they work their way back down the shelf, and they work their way again. And they're done with that shelf. Programming is huge when it comes to variable data.
So are you saying that theoretically prices in the Lakeland Publix are theoretically going to be better than anywhere else?
They could be.
Interesting to know.
They could be.
That's good news.
Awesome. Other questions for Brian?
You've done some hiring along the
Yes.
way and several interviews.
Several. Quite a bit.
The people you hired, why did you hire them? And the people that you chose not to hire, what was the determining factor?
First of all, I will always, always, always interview a Keiser graduate. I owe a lot to Keiser, and I feel that it is a good thing to do to always interview a Keiser graduate. I will always call Carrie first. I will always call Greg first and find out who they are. Be nice to them, because they have pros and cons to everybody, and they will let me know. Be prepared for an interview. If you say you have experience in Photoshop, I'm going to put you in front of a computer. We are a Mac and PC based company. I will put you in front of whatever you say you're the most comfortable with, and you better not tell me you're a 10 in Photoshop and not know how to do a clipping path. That is a very bad thing. There are a lot of people in that company that are extremely good at Creative Suite, and they usually are in that interview. When you say you're a 10, you better be a 10. Be prepared. Don't post for a job that you know nothing about. Do your research. If you're posting for a pre-press technician, know what pre-press is. That's very important. You'd be surprised. You would be surprised. And be professional. If you ever were to apply at Publix, it would not hurt you to do research on the company as well. I'm sure that's with any company. Know where that company comes from. Publix has very strong foundation, and we are very proud of it. Understand that foundation.
So, any other questions related to pre-press, related to Publix, related to Brian and how much of a pain in the butt he was to me in my class? Yes.
Y'all loved me.
Favorite software you use as far as the Adobe Suite?
Illustrator. I love Illustrator. Even being out of pre-press for almost 2 years now, I will still brag on myself and tell them that I'm the best Illustrator person they have.
You got competition.
What other types of things do you look for in an employee in terms of other than like skills and not lying about what they know?
Not lying. Not lying is a big thing. I like to look at their work history. I know that's very hard right now, especially for printing. There are a lot of print shops right now that are just going out of business. Print is a very cutthroat business. Luckily, I have a $32 billion a year grocery chain backing mine, which is incredible. But looking at their work history, if you bounce around jobs every year and a half, 2 years, that brings up questions. It brings up, well, are they going to stay here? We have a lot of training that goes into our new associates. With training comes a lot of time, money, investment. We don't want an associate to come in, spend a year with us. We train them for our normal training process for pre-press at least is 18 months. We don't want to come in and train them for almost 18 months and then they leave. So we like to look at their work history. Something, again, that's so funny, but it's something that we look at. Check your social media. Make sure that you don't have anything on your social media that you don't want your employer or your future employer to see. You have to put an email address on your application. Don't let it be poohbear69@yahoo.com. Be smart about it. Make your own email address. Make it your name. It's real easy. Little things go a long way.
Awesome. Any other questions? Thank you so
Brian,
much.
thank you so
Thank
very
you.
much.
Don't be a stranger, man.